blessed by the testimonies and the music and powerful Sabbath morning. I want to spend a little time with you. I won't keep you too long. Happy Sabbath. Glad to be here. Been gone for a little bit, and it's good to see. We might have to turn off some of those mics. Good to see some faces. That one that went south for a little while on vacation in Florida, and he's back with us. And glad to see some visitors. I know Alan Dibdahl. I don't know if he remembers me. My brother and I and a few other friends from Chicago, we signed up to be literature evangelists, HHES, just before they closed down. Yeah, so I'm glad you're here with us. So as you know, every summer we have something called camp meeting. And so we go off, they send us pastors to go and set up the campgrounds. We pitch, put up fences and get everything ready and do our part there, and then we help out in different departments. So we're gone for 2 weeks, and this summer I actually asked to be excused from a portion of camp meeting. So I was there for camp pitch, helped get everything ready. I was there for halfway through the week, and then I asked to leave a little bit early. And the reason why, and usually they don't like to excuse you from that, and I don't like to leave. I enjoy being there. But the reason I asked to leave was because I have my dad's brother has one daughter. And so they have come to my wedding, and they came to my brother's wedding and both of my sister's wedding. And they have that one daughter that's having a wedding in the middle of camp meeting. We said, I know we have tons of excuses why we wouldn't be able to go. It's 12 hours away. It's in Massachusetts. I said, we have to go. We have to go. Their only daughter's getting married, so we asked to be excused, and we traveled. We came home, did some laundry, repacked, and went and headed out to Massachusetts. Made a few stops along the way. And I don't know if you've driven. I've been to New York before in some of those eastern states, but it's beautiful, just beautiful in New York and Massachusetts. And I don't know if they call them hills, I call them mountains, because we don't have those around here. And so it's just so nice to see, and I'm just driving there through the valleys and up and down. Oh, I was in paradise. I love mountains. So it's a beautiful experience. We arrived there late on Thursday night. The wedding's supposed to be on Friday. And so we arrived there, and they had a house full of guests, and they set up a camper just next to the house for us. And this wasn't just any camper. This was a beautiful, luxurious camper. I mean, I could live in there for quite a while. And just nice camper. And they said, hey, when you wake up in the morning, we're going to have breakfast for you. So you wake up whenever. There's not a set time for breakfast. Whenever you wake up, we're going to make breakfast for you. And so we got up a little bit later, and some family had already eaten. And then we made our way to the backyard of the patio, and he said, okay, what do you want? We have some potatoes, some eggs, some pancakes, whatever you want, we're going to make it for you. And so we enjoyed some delicious breakfast, and we got to know a little bit more of the family there, and just enjoyed extravagant hospitality. They really did everything they could to make us feel welcome. You know, as we spent our time there, we ran a few more errands on Friday morning, and then the wedding's around 5 o'clock that evening. And so we went to this wedding, and as we arrived at the wedding, we watched what took place. They had I believe it was a non-denominational woman pastor was leading the wedding, officiating. And there was some music that we probably wouldn't necessarily think of choosing for our weddings, but there was music that they chose that were a little more beats and things like that for the wedding. And then we went to the reception, and there was some food that we're not used to eating in our home, and there was a little bit of alcohol. There was an open bar, so they can help themselves to some alcohol. And there was some dancing that was taking place at this wedding also. And so it was Friday. The Sabbath was nearing, and we wanted to be as supportive as possible. We weren't there for ourselves. It wasn't about our preferences, what we enjoy doing on a daily basis. It was about these people. It was their special day. And so we wanted to be as supportive as possible, and we enjoyed our time there at the wedding. We tried to mingle with everyone, with the the family, with the friends and their friends and so forth. And at some point we said, well, we're gonna head out. They continued dancing until about 11 o'clock and drinking and so forth. And we went home and we had a little bit of a Vespers, a little Friday night worship. I remember as we're taking prayer requests, I started thinking about the family, and I learned a few things about them. That my uncle, he grew up Seventh-day Adventist, but he doesn't attend church anymore. So he doesn't go to church. And I learned that my aunt, she was of a different denomination, never became Seventh-day Adventist, so she also doesn't attend any church. And because of that, my cousin is not in the church. She married someone that I'm not even sure if he's a Christian at this point. So as we're sitting there worshiping, we're thinking about them back at this wedding. They're celebrating, drinking, dancing, and doing those things, enjoying. We wanted to pray for them. And I said, Lord, I don't know. I don't want to be all religious on them and just impose my things. But Lord, if maybe some conversation, maybe something about the way we treat them, something about this interaction throughout this weekend, just touch their hearts somehow. May something impact them that they may realize that God is a good guy. That church is important, and that the Seventh-day Adventist Church is a wonderful church, wonderful place to be. And so we pray that, and we continued on with our weekend. We had such a good time there, and as I left, I was thanking them for inviting us to this wedding, and I got a message from my cousin. She said, it meant so much. It meant so much for you guys to come it's 12 hours here, 12 hours back, come all this way to celebrate with us. And of course, we don't celebrate everything in the same way, but it impacted her, impacted the family in a significant way. And we don't know, we're still praying, we hope that they will continue to be impacted, that God will work in their hearts. As Christians, and I'm so delighted to hear all the testimony because it all goes hand in hand with the message today, and even this song. As Christians, we have an understanding that we are in this world, but we're not of this world. This is the place that we live temporarily. We're here for a short time, but this is not our final resting place. This is not our final home. I want to share a passage with you this morning. The book of Philippians chapter 3. We'll have most of these on the screen. Philippians chapter 3 says this, "For as I have often told you before, and now I tell you again, even with tears, many live as enemies of the cross of Christ. Their destiny is destruction, their God is their stomach, and their glory is in their shame. Their mind is set on earthly things, but our citizenship is in heaven, and we eagerly await a Savior from there, the Lord Jesus Christ." So we need to constantly remind ourselves. It's so easy for us as we're building houses, we're buying cars, as we're occupying. It's easy for us to forget that this is not our final home. Our citizenship is in heaven. It says there are some who have forgotten they are dwelling on these earthly things. We need to be dwelling on heavenly things, but at the same time, we are present here. We are still on this earth until Jesus comes, and we need His help. We need wisdom to know how to interact with people, how to occupy until the Lord comes. There's a musician by the name of Johnny Cash. Many of you know him. I want to share a few lyrics from one of his songs that talk about this dilemma of how to be connected, how to be heavenly minded, and still be relevant here on earth. Here are the words. It's on the screen. "Come hear me, good brothers. Come hear one and all. Don't brag about standing or you'll surely fall. You're shining your light and shine it you should, but you're so heavenly minded you're no earthly good. Come hear me, good sisters. You're salt of the earth. If your salt isn't salted, then what is it worth? You could give someone a cool drink if you would. You're so heavenly minded you're no earthly good. If you're holding heaven, then spread it around. There are hungry hands reaching up here from the ground. Move over and share the high ground where you stood, so heavenly minded, you're no earthly good." This is the dilemma that we have. You have people, and this is a good thing, don't get me wrong. We should be heavenly minded. We're called to be heavenly minded. We're called to focus on our home, focus on the place where Christ dwells. But there can be the temptation. There can be some that are just always focused on that, always talking, and they don't know how to relate to the common people. I love to talk about God. I love to focus on heaven. But sometimes my neighbor just wants to talk about his lawnmower, right? Sometimes the person across just wants to talk about sports. You know, they heard that there was a championship and LeBron brought a championship home to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I don't watch a whole lot of sports, but I know what took place, and I can talk to him about that a little bit that I know. But I believe that through those conversations, as we are able to relate to people, God will open the door to bring about those spiritual conversations. So we need to be heavenly minded, but we need to still be able to relate to those here on earth. On the other hand, we have some that are so earthly minded that they're no heavenly good. It's going to be the temptation as we're attempting to be relevant, to connect with those we come in contact with. If we're not careful, we can become just like the very ones we're trying to reach. So earthly minded, we're no heavenly good. Because we want to say, listen, I'm right here with you. I understand what you're going through. I get your situation. And we need to be able to do that, but we still need to keep a perspective and know where our home is. This idea of being in the world but not of it is a biblical idea. The book of John, chapter 17, we'll spend most of our time this morning. We'll look at a few verses there. John, chapter 17. Here, Jesus is about to be crucified, the last few days of his life, and he's sharing this prayer with his disciples. And he's praying so that they can hear this prayer. He wants them to remember the prayer. He wants them to know that he is praying for them, that he cares for them. And he shares a few points here that I believe would be beneficial to them and to us today. As he knew that he would be leaving shortly, and he knew that they would have to associate with people that were different than they were, he wanted to give them some assurance, give them some confidence that they could do that, and he would be in the midst of them. John chapter 17, we'll begin at verse 13. It says here, I am coming to you now, but I say these things while I am still in the world, so that they may have the full measure of my joy within them. I believe the first point is we're attempting to relate to those around us, as we're attempting to be in the world but not of it. The first point is that joy comes from receiving and releasing. From receiving and releasing. Jesus wants us to have this full measure of his joy, and some people have been saved, and they have some joy, but I don't believe they have a full measure of that joy. The book of Luke chapter 2, in verse 10, it says this, But the angel said to them, Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all the people. So what was this news that would bring great joy? This was Jesus. This was salvation to humanity. A sinful world destined to die. Jesus was coming to bring them salvation. And so some have accepted this good news, and they have joy because they have accepted it. But I don't believe they have a full measure of joy until they share that with others also. Amen. It's receiving that joy, receiving that good news, and then releasing it so that you can receive more and release it and keep sharing this good news. That's only, and it doesn't make sense. Scientifically, logically, it doesn't make sense. If I give, how can I have a full measure? But we need to be receiving and releasing to have a full measure of this joy. Let's keep going. Verse 14 of John 17. It says, I have given them your word, and the world has hated them, for they are not of the world any more than I am of the world. The next point I want to make in regards to these relationships is that citizenship may alter relationships. Citizenship may alter relationships. The book of John, chapter 15, it says something similar. It says, if the world hates you, keep in mind it hated me first. If you belong to the world, it would love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. That's why the world hates you. So at the point where you realize that you do not belong to this earth, that you belong to heaven, your citizenship was elsewhere, you can be assured that you will have some enemies. There will be some who will be drawn to that experience, to the things that God is doing in your life, but you will make some enemies because their citizenship is still tied to this earth, and light cannot live with darkness. And so citizenship may alter your relationships. And if the world hates you, let it be because of your life and not because of your words. Let's keep going. Verse 15, John 17, verse 15 and 16 says this, "My prayer is not that you take them out of the world, but that you protect them from the evil one. They are not of the world, even as I am not of the world." The third point I want to make in regards to this is that dependence is more important than deliverance. Dependence is more important than deliverance. And don't misunderstand me in regards to this, because often in this earth, we don't want to be dependent on people, right? We don't want to be dependent. Many people are dependent on alcohol, on addiction, on these different things. But when it comes to God, we often want to be delivered from a situation, want to be removed from a situation. But it says here, I don't want them to be removed from this world, but to be protected, to be taken care of during this time. Dependence is more important than deliverance. Matthew chapter 10 and verse 16 says this, "Behold, I am sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves, so be wise as serpents and innocent as doves." And I changed the one on the screen. Let me read that one. "Stay alert. This is a hazardous work I am assigning you. You're going to be like sheep running through a wolf pack, so don't call attention to yourselves. Be as cunning as a snake and inoffensive as a dove." As we're out there, we will have opposition. We will feel at times that we're overwhelmed, and we want God to remove us from that situation. We'll feel that everything is working against us as we're trying to witness, as we're trying to share. But we need to remember that God is still on our side. He is still there to see us through that situation. We need to exercise tact and love as we do that. Let's keep going. Verse 17. Let's finish these few verses here. Verse 17 through 19. It says, "Sanctify them by the truth. Your word is truth. As you sent me into the world, I have sent them into the world. For them I sanctify myself, that they too may be truly sanctified." The fourth point I want to make this morning is that a changed life will change lives. A changed life will change lives. Jesus said we need to be sanctified, set apart, purified by God's word. You know, there are some that are they're longing to reach out to family members, to friends that they've left behind, but until this takes place, they should not be doing so. There are some that need to have a life change before they go and try to help someone else change their life. You have the example, and you probably have heard this before. You think of someone, let's say we're going on a Sabbath afternoon, walking by a creek, by a river, and it's moving fairly quickly, and one of the kids or one of the adults falls into that river. And so we want to help this person out. What do we do? How do we help pull them out of that river? Do I go and stand on this rock full of moss and all slick, and I stand on that thing and try to grab them out? What's going to happen? I'm going to slip right in and fall in with the person I'm trying to rescue. The ideal is if you have a tree or something, you have some solid foundation, solid ground where you may stand, and you can reach out and grab that person and pull them in to the solid foundation also. Before we attempt to reach those individuals out there that we want to help, we need to make sure that we have a solid foundation, that we have life change. 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 12 shares this. It says, "Be careful to live properly among your unbelieving neighbors. Then even if they accuse you of doing wrong, they will see your honorable behavior, and they will give honor to God when He judges the world." There are people that need to see change in their life. What good is it for me to come and say all the good things that God can do if they don't see it in my life? You know, God can help you with that temper. God can help you to stop gossiping. But let me tell you what just happened at church last Sabbath. They want to see change in your life. They want to know that, yes, if this person can change, I can change also. And they will honor God because of that change. I want to end here with a quote from a popular book, author Herman Melville, the author of the book Moby Dick. I want to share a short quote from that book I think you'll enjoy. It says here, this is him describing the whale. He says, it does seem to me that herein we see the rare virtue of a strong individual vitality, and the rare virtue of thick walls, and the rare virtue of interior spaciousness. O man, admire and model thyself after the whale. Do thou too remain warm among ice? Do thou too live in this world without being of it? Be cool at the equator, keep thy blood fluid at the pole. Like the great dome of St. Peter's and like the great whale, retain, O man, in all seasons the temperature of thine own. Lesson from a whale. Retain, O man, in all seasons the temperature of thine own. We are not of this world, but for a time we have to live in this world. We need to make sure that we are not influenced by the world, that we are influenced by our heavenly kingdom. But we do want to impact this world. Colossians chapter 4 and verse 5, I'll end with this passage here. It says, live wisely among those who are not believers and make the most of every opportunity. As we interact with friends and neighbors and family, we need to live wisely. We need to ask God for wisdom. And we need to make the most of every opportunity. As I think about my family here in Massachusetts, I'm still praying for them. I'm hoping that they'll be thinking about our interaction there. I'm hoping that they will have gained something valuable by kind words that were uttered and by just deeds, things that we did over there, things that took place. And I want to keep praying for them, hoping that God will be able to reach them somehow. I want you to think about your life, think about your family. I know that you guys have people, I know that you can relate to this wedding experience, and you've been there before. Think about those people in your life, those family members, those friends. And I want you to think about this prayer of Jesus and the things he said to the disciples in order to help them navigate through this earth, in order to be in the world but not of it. God bless you.